Karen Lewis, Director of Children's Ministries, is retiring at the end of May 2020. Karen lives the affirmation of our church every day, making service her prayer. She served as a lay leader in our programs for children and youth for years before she began serving in a professional capacity 21 years ago. Karen grew up at First Unitarian Church of Dallas. She and her husband Steve raised their children here, and now their grandchildren have been dedicated and blessed by this community. Karen loves this church, and so she has brought her heart and her gifts to our community in many ways over the years. When Karen began as director of the children's program, there were no classes on the Bible. Karen has expanded the curricula offered to include all the sources of our faith, including our Jewish and Christian roots, to give our children a strong religious foundation. This religious foundation is constructed in part by the dedicated adult congregants that Karen has invited and supported in serving as teachers and spiritual guides for our children. Karen expanded our church's use of the Our Whole Lives sexuality education program, starting classes for 1st and 6th graders. Our OWL program is now at capacity every year and bursting with energy. Karen brought our beloved summer camp, Some Fun, back from a hiatus. This week-long camp builds relationships between children, youth, and adults that last a lifetime. Karen has been committed to providing opportunities for teens and their parents to work together, including by preparing brunches as trip fundraisers. In an effort to broaden our impact beyond the walls of the church, Karen started youth service trips to Heifer Ranch and the annual YRUU service trip. One of the first and most significant contributions of Karen as a staff member was her role in creating the Coming of Age program offered to our youth in their 9th grade year. She has guided it over the years, adapting to changes in the church and our families, and has created a program that ministers to youth at an important stage of their maturation. So, to honor Karen and celebrate the legacy of her service here in the church, we have created the Karen Lewis Coming of Age Heritage Trip Fund. The culmination of the 9th grade year is a pilgrimage to the Boston area, which hundreds of young people and adult advisors have taken to immerse themselves in our Unitarian Universalist heritage. The Heritage Trip is a spiritual journey to sacred places of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, a transformative experience that helps them approach their faith more reflectively, making connections between Unitarian Universalist history and their lives today. The Karen Lewis Coming of Age Heritage Trip Fund will make this trip accessible to all who want to participate and sustain this pilgrimage for generations to come. Karen has always been committed to making church and religious education relevant to people's lives, asking the question, what does this mean for how I live and act and move through the world? The Heritage Trip is an example of this. The youth learn here in Dallas during the year. Then they travel to Boston together to visit the sites and to sit in the rooms where it happened. It brings their heritage alive, and it is an important step in the spiritual maturation and faith development of our youth. The youth return home no longer saying, "This is the church I go to," but rather, "This is my church." I invite you to join us in expressing gratitude for Karen Lewis and her decades of service to the children, youth, and families of First Unitarian Church of Dallas. You can do this by supporting our ministries for children and youth with your time and gifts, and by giving generously today to the Karen Lewis Coming of Age Heritage Trip Fund.